following program is brought to you in living color on NBC.
Welcome back to the Collector Zone. I'm Jeff Dickinson, and this is WarGames. It's one of my favorite flicks. If you have never seen it before, let's check out the trailer.
David Lightman was a master at computer games, a fast thinker.
Oh, David! Maybe you could tell us who first suggested the idea of reproduction without sex.
Your wife?
Get out, Lightman.
And a promising student at an old game.
Hi.
With an electronic twist.
Are those your grades?
Yeah. I don't think that I deserved an F. Do you?
You can go to jail for that.
Only if you're over 18.
This computer company is coming out with these amazing new games in a couple of months.
And I want to play those games. Wow.
What?
We got something.
He found the right code word to play the game.
We're in.
But it was the wrong computer.
Shall we play a game?
How can I ask you that?
How about global thermonuclear war?
Fine.
All right.
What the hell? They're trajectory headings for multiple impact re-entry vehicles.
What does that mean?
I don't know, but it's great.
All stations, this is Crystal Palace.
I wonder if I should use my subs.
22 Typhoon-class submarines departing Petropavlovsk.
What in the hell's happening here?
Oh my god.
Shall we play?
I have 7, correction 8. That's 8 Redbirds. Get on the sack. Tell them to flush the bombers.
Russians are still denying everything, sir.
Who are you working with?
Nobody.
I don't have to believe you.
Overday, we have Soviet missile warning.
Placed under arrest pending indictment for espionage.
Espionage?
Confidence is high. I repeat, confidence is high.
Cobra Dane, is this an exercise?
Negative, this is not an exercise.
Made the president on the horn.
It's still playing the game. It's gonna start a war.
Close up the mouth.
Is this a game or is it real?
War Games. Playing soon at a theater near you.
Shall we play?
Pretty killer, right? So, I had saw this in the theater, and I had saw it only once in the theater, and I went and rented this a lot of times, like we always did, Blockbuster on VHS. Scored the DVD version, but didn't have any special features. I wanted to get the special features here. And this is the 4K. So this is my very first 4K one. So we're going to open this up. And hey, don't end the video too quickly, because we got something special to show you. Well, it's something cool that I thought that you might enjoy. So after we open this up, stick around. You may enjoy it. But yeah, man, I'm excited because I haven't seen any special features for this movie. And I want to see what it's like. Oh, look here. Okay, so this is the, let me swing this around here so we can see it good. So this is the Blu-ray of the movie, and this is the 4K HD version. And I thought it was going to be something different inside, like, I don't know. I thought it was going to be more to it. But it's cool. I don't have a HD 4K yet. Saving up for a PS5. So we'll be doing that. But I'll be enjoying the Blu-ray. So as promised, let's check out that special feature.
No way that a high school punk can put a dime in a telephone and break into our system.
I think WarGames was one of the first real movies to delve into a computer as it really works and to delve into hacker culture. But very few people actually knew what hackers did or how the actual apparatus and machinery they used worked.
The movie described a command and control system that didn't really exist at the time, but something like it eventually did happen.
WarGames came out at what was considered the golden age of hacking.
The movie WarGames reverberated throughout the hacker community with incredible force. Suddenly, everyone wanted to be a hacker.
The word hacker, when it first came out, did not have a bad notion to it. A hacker was simply one who knew how to use computer hardware and software and to fix things.
It evolved from the college and university days where students would get access to the college computer and hack the program and make it do better things or make it do malicious things. College students do pranks, just their nature.
What are you doing?
Dialing into the school's computer.
The original hackers started up at places like MIT and Caltech in the 50s when nobody was allowed access to these mysterious computers who wasn't one of the white-robed admins that had been blessed by IBM or UNIVAC. And these were the first guys that felt the imperative to get their hands on and explore these computers, even though they were not officially supposed to.
They were all into this very pureness of things have to add up in some kind of sense the way nature makes things add up. And these became hackers, and it was basically hacking day and night at computers.
Eventually, a hacker took on the connotation of someone doing something illegal, getting in where they weren't supposed to get in. And there was a sort of king of the hill phenomenon that wasn't meant to be malicious. It eventually became malicious on the part of a small percentage of hackers.
A computer is not designed to be taken over by anyone. So you have to figure out a way to steal passwords or to get through a little hole that the computer didn't know about and runs a program of yours when it doesn't know it's running a program. And they find these flaws all over the place.
We used to, in the early days, distinguish between hackers, who were just people with skills, and crackers, who were people who cracked into systems where they weren't authorized.
You'll never get in there. Hey, I don't believe that any system is totally secure.
The hackers wanted to use your computers without your permission. There was never any of this noble Robin Hood nonsense among the members of the group that I knew. We knew fully well what we were doing. We knew that there were people out there trying to stop us. In spite of that fact, we were driven by the desire to learn more about it, and certainly by the little bit of adrenaline rush you get every time you get into a system. There's a lot of things that you'll never forget the first time of. Getting into a computer you weren't supposed to is one of them.
Wow. We're in.
There are two kinds of hackers. There are the ones who go in and they want you to know they got in. And they deface your web page and they make you look stupid. Then there are the kind of hackers who are much more subtle. They go in, they steal information, and then they clean their tracks up on the way out. You'll never know that that happened.
You're really into computers, huh?
Yeah.
WarGames was was one of the first movies to actually show somebody at home behind their computer dealing with things like modems, what a PC was. Matthew Broderick's character was interacting with it. He was pulling little tricks, and it made it look cool in a way that I think hacker culture had never been before.
The history of the hacking subculture is filled with examples of young people who, unlike Matthew Broderick's character in the movie, were not necessarily under the impression that they were playing a game against a computer, but they were out there experimenting, curious about what other computers and things were out there hanging off this network and how they could interact with them.
Jim, how do I get into that system? I want to play those games.
Hacking can be traced back to a small 8-year-old boy who happened to be blind and also happened to have the gift of perfect pitch. Discovered that if he whistled the fourth E above middle C, he could generate a tone that would stop a telephone call dead in its tracks. But that happened to be the tone that the phone company used to have immediate access to the telecommunications network. A short while after that, John Draper befriended this young boy.
So we got to talking, and then he was demonstrating the concept of the blue box. And I says, you mean to tell me that if you send these tones over the phone, you can make a free call? And he says, yes. Show me how it works. He showed me how it works. He gave me the frequency of the tones. I went home and built the blue box that night. The blue box basically enables a person to access the national dialing network.
John Draper also discovered that in the box of Captain Crunch cereal, there was a toy whistle. And the toy whistle also generated a 2600 hertz tone.
And this, of course, allowed people to make phone calls for free because all you had to do is to send the right tones down the line.
A lot of other young experts, experimenters caught on to this, and we had the phenomenon we now know as phone phreaking, also known as blue boxing.
Well, when I discovered phone phreaking, it was like discovering a miracle. I mean, you could put little tones into a telephone and make free calls anywhere over the world. It sounds like a fiction story, you know? It's a great fiction story. And so I designed this little box that would put up to a phone and make calls all over the world. And we would use the blue box to explore how to get through the system. And how does the system work? And what things can you do that you're not supposed to be able to do? Nobody would believe you're able to do. I mean, it was absolutely just pure hacking on my part. Just loving to discover flaws in a system.
That's where it all got started, and it all got started by young kids. You know, in one case, 8, 9 years old, in other cases, teenagers experimenting with the telephone system.
This computer company is coming out with these amazing new games in a couple of months. And the programs for them are probably still on their computer. So I told my system to search for other computers in Sunnyvale, California.
In the movie, Matthew Broderick had to actually scan down to find the phone number that he needed to get access to the computer to download his game that he was after.
That is known as war dialing, where he would just have his computer dial number after number after number looking for a modem on the other end. That is completely accurate in terms of how things eventually developed in the 1980s. What was not accurate about the movie in 1983 when it came out was that most schools at that time didn't have computers with modems connected to this thing we now know as the internet.
There were, of course, private Defense Department networks before there was an internet, and they used phone lines.
Back during those days, I was hacking the ARPANET. ARPA stands for Advanced Research Projects Agency. It was designed and developed back during the Cold War, so the military would tie all these computers together, and now they could have a distributed computing network, and that eventually became the internet.
The internet in the early 80s was still an academic and defense tool, but the internet as a structure existed back then, just most people weren't really using it. And if you look in the film, what he's doing most of the time is using a modem over phone lines, which essentially was just using the standard telecommunications infrastructure that existed at the time.
As the internet was expanded and other people were allowed in, that meant the internet, A, was open to criminals, because it was open to everybody, and B, that it started to take on roles for which it was never intended.
Today, every critical service that our societies depend upon are run by computers that are all on public networks. So if you damage a system that's operating the telecommunications grid, as an example, that has a ripple effect throughout all of the various critical infrastructures.
There were, every once in a while, these large-scale attacks on portions of the internet that stopped places from working. And so Clinton and Gore said, we need to have a review. And they appointed a presidential commission. That commission came back and said, we have a real problem. The system is wide open to attack. And boy, if it's attacked by a hostile power, many of the things that we need to do as a country to defend ourselves, to run the government, and to run the economy cannot get done anymore without cyberspace.
I am not, by any stretch of the imagination, sorry that we went down this road. It's improved everybody's life immeasurably. What I am concerned about is our tendency to deploy technologies as fast as we possibly can without giving any thought to the implications of what those technologies might mean.
I wouldn't trust this overgrown pile of microchips any further than I could throw it.
It's not just a question of, is the United States command and control network safe from hacking, as happened in the movie? But what about all the other countries that now have nuclear missiles? What could happen in the future if a hacker got into the Pakistani command and control network and launched a Pakistani missile toward the United States? Do we know for sure that all of their networks are safe from hackers?
Kid broke into the WarGames subsystem, all right, using a password left by the original program.
You would be surprised by the simplicity of some of the attacks that, in many cases, young people have been able to pull off. In fact, just in the last 5, 6, 7 years, we've had incidents where teenagers have dialed into things like the telephone communication systems that support air traffic control at major airports, where their tinkering has taken down the entire telecommunications grid around that airport, including flight command and control systems. So it's still a phenomenon today, and it's still a major problem.
Oh, hey, you got it back.
Gotta make a note of that one. Might come in handy someday.
When WarGames came out in 1983, it raised a lot of important questions that we're still asking about the internet and computers to this very day. To what extent should there be a human check and balance to the powers and capabilities we give to technology? There was so much about the movie that was fictional, that was not possible in 1983, but that was still right around the corner.
I was very excited by the movie when it first came out, because one of the things I always worried about when I was in the government during the Cold War was command and control. So the whole issue of the electronics behind the nuclear weapons was something that I was very familiar with. And a movie about that, and a movie about the future, and about computer networks, I found thrilling. I thought very well done.
I wouldn't blame WarGames for a lot of the hacker culture that occurred after it, because there was some serious momentum going on right there at about that time anyway, but there were some famous people who really took it as a challenge to break into really, really difficult places, government operations, et cetera, et cetera. They really took it as a point of pride to be able to get around any blockades put in front of them.
There are a lot of ethical hackers out that basically say we only want to discover the flaws in the system with our little experimenting game, find every flaw we can, but not hurt anybody. We want to expose those flaws to the world and to the companies, tell the companies, here's your flaw, please fix it.
The stuff that we did back then in our learning phase would have you caught and arrested so fast right now that, you wouldn't have a computer anymore. And that would pretty much be the end of that. So it was kind of a strange little slice of time that I don't think will ever be replicated again.
Wouldn't you prefer a good game of chess?